Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Justin.
What's up, Andros?
What would you say is the number one thing that we talk about here? Like the most important strategy that any marketer could do?
It's a great question. I guess if I had to narrow it down, it would probably be on the whole concept of narrowing stuff down, getting down into those niches, right? Digging into the
niches, right? Focusing down on those niches, and that's why I'm excited about our next guest. You know why?
Why?
Because this guy literally wrote the book on the subject. He wrote the book on niching down. That's amazing, right?
I can't wait then.
Then you don't have to wait too much longer. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andros Sturgeon.
And I'm Justin Womack.
And we are the Marketing Geeks.
Marketing Geeks.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our guest for this episode is he wrote the book, Key Focus, Niche Down, How to Become Legendary by Being Different. And he has his own, he's like a writer. I'm just going to bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Lochhead.
I think you missed a few credentials there.
Well, you know what? Let's let Christopher talk about it. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is an honor to be here with you. I'm stoked.
Thank you. Yeah, and we like to be different too. So instead of introducing you with all your credentials, we wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people how amazing you are. But my understanding, though, Christopher, is that you've had 30 years experience as a CMO for 3 major companies in Silicon Valley. You have your own hit podcast that's a #1 on iTunes and Apple Podcasts now, I should say. And on LinkedIn, you're a self-proclaimed stable genius, which you and one other person on the planet. So
the truth is, I think that's probably false advertising. I think I'm an unstable genius, and I'm not even sure about the genius part, but I'm clear about the unstable part.
So tell us for our listeners who don't know you, tell us a little bit give us your history here. How did you become you?
As Justin said, I'm a former 3-time public company CMO. My last company was called Mercury Interactive in Silicon Valley, and we sold that company in 2006 to Hewlett-Packard for $5 billion, making HP my favorite company of all time. And then I did some
like $5 billion with a B?
With a B, yeah.
Wow, that's not only fuck you money, that's fuck you and your mother money. That's
wow.
That is a lot.
Some serious internet money.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, they didn't give me the whole $5 billion, but they, I got my little piece of it, and it was a hell of a ride, I'll tell you. And I started my first company when I was 18 years old. I got thrown out of school for being stupid. I found out at 21 that I'm dyslexic, and so all of a sudden my education made sense to me. And I think, like a lot of entrepreneurs, for some entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship is a way up in the world. And if that's your motivation, God bless you for sure. But for many of us entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship is a way out. And for me, it was a way out of a life of struggle, a way out of a life of manual labor. I grew up with a single mom, and it was we had to scratch around to make shit work. And I delivered newspapers and, was entrepreneurial at a pretty young age. But like a lot of folks, entrepreneurship is a way for us to bet on ourselves when literally nobody else will bet on you. And I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and I ended up starting a company. That company failed, and I joined another startup and, thrashed around for a while in the tech startup scene in Canada. And then I started a boutique niche down consulting company in Toronto and ultimately sold that company to a US-based software company in 1996. And I've been living in Northern California ever since.
What part? Just curious.
Now I lived in Silicon Valley for a long time, and now I live close to Silicon Valley in beautiful Santa Cruz, California, right on the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I grew up in Marin, so I'm from around there.
Yeah, so you know.
I lived in Berkeley for a while, but I love Santa Cruz. It's so great.
Well, actually, people have called Santa Cruz Berkeley by the sea.
Right.
Banana slugs.
Go banana
I
slugs.
hear there's vampires there. For those of you who, geek movie reference. Okay. So let's go back a little bit because I also have dyslexia, and it makes schooling a challenge. So at what point did you realize that you weren't going to fit into this mold and you wanted to like bust out and do something different, and you caught the entrepreneurial spirit? When did that happen?
Well, I never felt like I fit in. And candidly, I still don't feel like I do. So I feel like I was born on and live on the island of misfit toys. And the saving grace in that is I have found a tribe of people who are also on the island of misfit toys. So I'm not alone anymore. But those of us who have felt different, those of us with learning differences, or for whatever reason didn't feel like we fit in, I think there's two kinds of people. There's people who find their place in the world, and if that's that God bless you if that's you. And there's people who can't find a place because there isn't one. We don't fit, and therefore we have to make our place in the world.
Yeah.
And so I kind of always felt that way, Andros.
Now, do you see yourself as like an introvert too, or are you more extroverted? I'm just kind of curious on that regard, because you've recently kind of talked about how you're getting into the realm of podcasting and writing heavily. And as an introvert myself, I find that those two mediums lend themselves really well to introverted people. And I was just kind of curious if that's you or if that's just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's interesting you ask, because I'm what experts call, so this is what I've been told. What do I know? I am an introverted extrovert. So I like a lot of the extrovert stuff, and I think most people, when they watch my behavior in the world, would say, that guy's probably an extrovert. But at the same time, I get to this place where it's like, I can't handle being around people anymore, and I need to be on my own. I can't network with the shit. As a matter of fact, I think networking is stupid. You get that email from somebody on LinkedIn who says, I'd like to network with you. And like, I'm not just going to meet you for coffee.
Well,
or
not
whatever.
with that tone.
I have my inbox is full of those LinkedIn messages every single day. It's like 20 a day. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so like, unless there's a purpose for us to talk, I hate to be antisocial, but like, and they're like, oh, well, I'll come to Santa Cruz and take you out to dinner. And it's like, I can buy myself dinner, and my wife's a great cook. And, like, unless there's a reason for us to talk. And like at a conference or whatever, I'm sure this happens to you guys. You get invited to these events and stuff. And unless there's a reason for me to be there, I'm speaking or meeting somebody or whatever. I back in the old days, I used to go to TED. Well, TED was sort of in its original form.
Before TED was cool.
Yeah, exactly. Before anybody knew what the fuck TED was. And I stopped going when they started to put all the videos online, because I didn't like all the schmoozing and cruising and boozing. And yet I'm a supposed introvert. So I don't know.
Yeah. Just a random question, but do you go to Burning Man?
No, I don't. None of that shit's for me. That sounds like a terrible idea. And I respect it. And if you're into it, God bless you. I think it's totally cool, but it's not what I want to do.
Andros is probably in like the top 10 burners of all time, because he's been to like 20 of them. I've never been myself, but Andros has been like 20 times.
I go almost every year. So
most of my friends are burners. It's just,
I was assuming that.
I'm not social like that,
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
That's okay. I won't hold it against you.
Yeah, I associate with what you said there, and I think you may have even said it backwards, because I think you did say you're dyslexic, but I think when I've been told is I'm kind of like an extroverted introvert. I think you said introverted extrovert. I don't know. One of the tomato. But it's the same kind of thing. I can like turn on the extroverted personality if I want to a certain extent. But by far, I am an introverted person. I recharge by being by myself at home. And that's kind of my natural state. So it's been interesting. Now, one of the things that you've, I was listening to an interview of yours on YouTube, and you talked about how after 30 years in the business, like you're grateful for the opportunity to find podcasting and blogging, because it gives you a chance to kind of have like a second act. It's giving you an opportunity to continue where in the past people that retired as after CMO jobs that was it. They retired. Maybe they joined like a Rotary Club or something, but there wasn't like this opportunity there is now to actually build a personal brand and reach people so easily, like what the internet has kind of provided all of us. And then it also mentioned that you're into investing in startups too. So I wanted to hear a little bit about your both what it's been like starting the podcast for you after your corporate career, or even though these are all startups that you worked with. And then also what it's like as, are you full venture capital investor now, or what that looks like too? Yeah.
So the cool thing is, so I started writing, my first book came out a little over 3 years ago. Niche Down's my second book, and I've been podcasting for about 2.5 years or so. And so the sort of interesting thing about it, it's been a fun social experiment for me in that, I got to a place in Silicon Valley, in the tech startup world, in the marketing world, where I had achieved more than I ever thought I would. The question for me early in my life was, is Christopher going to make it? Can he find a job that will pay the $300 a month rent in some dumpy apartment?
Boy, I get that.
And so that was the question early in my life. And, listen, by the time I was 27 or 28 years old, I was the head of marketing for a publicly traded tech company in Silicon Valley. And so, I had a hell of a run. And the whole time I was doing it, I thought, well, this is what I was doing, that this was my career. And I never thought that there would be some other life. And what I realize now, Justin, is what I'm doing now is the reward that I get for having done 25 years, in the trenches, building categories, companies, brands, technologies, and so forth. And so when I started in writing and podcasting, the interesting thing is, if you've ever sort of climbed some mountain and you get to the top of that mountain, and then you decide, well, what do you do after you climb a mountain? You pick a new mountain. And so I have had this second career, and you start at the bottom, and you literally go from being somebody to a absolute nobody. And it's been fascinating to see how the world treats you. And it's also been fascinating to sort of climb into this new world and learn a lot about it. But the thing that's been the greatest is, you hear this expression all the time, and some people say it to me, and I know they mean it as a compliment. It's like, oh, it must feel great to be a self-made man. And I understand what they mean when they say that, but I am not a self-made man. A lot of people bet on me when there was no reason to whatsoever, when there was zero evidence that it was worth anybody's time. And I am forever grateful. And I'm grateful to the people who I did that with personal relationships. And I'm grateful to my heroes that I never got to meet, the David Ogilvy's and many others who put pen to paper and made a contribution. And so I'm at that place now where I just, and this may sound corny to some, but it's just how I feel. I feel a real responsibility to try to give it all away and to give it back. And the beauty of writing and podcasting is it allows you to do that, and it allows you to make a difference at scale. And the scale of the books and the podcast have absolutely knocked me over. But the place I'm at now is essentially one of immense gratitude and joy around I get to talk to legendary people every week on my podcast. I've read more books in the last couple of years because when we have authors on, I read the books. We just dropped an episode recently with Scott Cooper, who's the managing partner at Andreessen Horowitz. Well, there are entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley who'd pay $20,000 to have lunch with that guy. Right? Yeah. We just dropped an episode with Heidi Roizen, who's like one of the OGs in Silicon Valley venture capital, right? Bill Walton's been on my podcast twice, right? So it's just this incredible.
I met him, actually.
Isn't he great? When did you meet him?
He's amazing. Yeah, I met him at a charity event, and he was incredible. Very, very humble, very nice, very cool guy.
Yeah, I love him. I've gotten to know him reasonably well, and I adore the guy.
Now, Chris, I want to go back a little bit to when you were this in-between spot where you went from like trying to figure it out to being a CMO of a huge company. What was that journey like for you? Like, how did you do that? Because you said people gave you an opportunity, but can you get a little more into the details of like how that happened for you?
And was this like a startup, or was this like, did they bring you on as CMO? Like what? Yeah, fill in the gaps there.
So yeah, my first CMO gig, the company was called Vantiv, and it was in the early days of the CRM wars in Silicon Valley.
Salesforce wins.
Well, actually, this was pre-Salesforce. This was Vantiv was competing with the company that won round one, which was Siebel Systems, right? And then Salesforce took out Siebel, of course. But anyway, the CEO of Vantiv took a shine to me at a young age, and he acquired my boutique niche down consulting company, and he took a chance on me, and he moved me to from Toronto to Silicon Valley, and said, "Hey, why don't you take over marketing? You seem like a smart young kid. Let's go." And so there was certainly a lot of fake it till you make it, but I think when people talk about fake it till they make it, I think some people don't tell the truth. I think people who are successful doing fake it till you make it, to be successful at that, you got to work.
Yeah.
And I worked my freaking hoo-hoo off. I mean, I read like crazy, which, as a dyslexic, is challenging. I sought out mentors. I put myself in super challenging situations. And I pushed myself. I pushed myself to become as great as an executive and an entrepreneur and a marketer as I could. And I did my fucking homework. I read like crazy. I studied like crazy. I did go to all those conferences. I did all those things. I hung around with legendarily smart people, whether they were software entrepreneurs or marketers or investment bankers or venture capitalists or, hanging out at Stanford or whatever it was. Like I went to town to train myself to become the best entrepreneur, the best marketer, the best executive I could. And so, yes, I was faking it till I made it, but I was working real hard to be the man that I wanted to be.
Well, I like that you said that, though, because to me, there's a distinction, though, because like you mentioned, you didn't necessarily lie when you're faking it to make it. And I've done this in my career where I might have said, if I know I can figure something out, I'll figure it out. And if somebody asks me if I can do something, I'll say I can do it. But that means that I'm going to go figure it out. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a lie, because they asked if I could do it. And yes, I can, and I can figure it out, and I'll make myself be able to do it. And I'll put in the time, I'll put in the research, I'll acquire the skills. Versus somebody that's just lying on their resume, lying on a pitch, right, and saying, they have like an audience they don't have, saying they have things they don't have. So there's a distinction there. So I think there's a way of doing it honorably and dishonorably. And I'm sure it's a gray area, but I like that you brought that up.
Well, it's the difference between saying you can do something and you're an expert at something. Exactly. Justin and I went in, we pitched a huge a computer hardware company to become their Amazon sales marketing team. And he and we had no idea about any of that, but we pitched them, and it was one of those things. We didn't get the job because we weren't like super savvy on it. We were honest about that. Like, we've done this, we know about it, but you'll be our biggest client. But the fact that we were able to pitch at that level is like, once you pitch at that level, even if you don't get the job, it's like, great, now I'm pitching here, right?
And it's not that we didn't know anything, because we're pretty savvy digital marketing guys, and we know a fair amount about Amazon, but that's a whole nother ecosystem that we weren't like that in depth on. Yeah.
So, and this is just something to keep in mind if you're starting out, if you're running your own marketing or consulting firm, is you take the jobs that are going to stretch you and continuously learn. So moving forward now to our current day and age, right? What do you think is the most important things that marketers need to know? Like, what do you see the trends as far as marketing in the world today?
So I think now's the greatest time in history to be a marketer. I don't think there's any even debate about that. And I think the reason for that is primarily technology, that we have the ability to precision target people. There's a niche NATO going on. There's a tremendous amount of new categories and new brands being created in new niches that are highly technology enabled. I think the fact that in many companies today, the CMO has a bigger tech budget than the CIO is a real indicator of what's going on here. And so I at a high level, I think big data is an incredible thing. And the different channels we have, this omni-channel world that we live in, I think all that is super exciting. And the if for lack of a better term, the digital savvy that is required to be a CMO, I find very exciting, and I find trying to keep up with all that stuff, and I love it. And I also think some marketers over focus on the analytical and the spreadsheet and the database. And I think we're also at a time that allows for a massive amount of creativity. Yeah. And I think that's very exciting. And so what I love is we as marketers get to play at the intersection of analytics and data and creativity, strategy, and innovation. And I love playing at that intersection.
Oh yeah, me too. It's a lot of fun. So we had a guest on Philip Stutz the other night, and he was saying he's actually a political marketer, and he was talking about how the game is completely changing with target marketing, and he was talking about something called geofencing, where you can target like
IP addresses.
IP addresses, but even if there's an event that's happening at a convention center, you could go back 2 years ago to that event and target the people who went to that event with geolocation, which is exciting as a marketer, completely scary.
And terrifying as a person.
As a person. But he predicted that there will be a social media crash, that targeting people through social media is going to be like it's not going to be as easy in the next couple of years. What do you think about that? Where do you see kind of all of this going, and mixing in the trends?
Just to add to that real quick too, what he was talking about, the geofencing, a lot of that was coming from like Hulu and like television based apps like Roku, Hulu, some of those apps he was talking about, where he said that data was much more robust at this point, and that's why he sees also the social media crash coming. But yeah, what would do you see that, or what's your take on that?
So I don't know whether I agree with him or disagree with him. You'll tell me. But here's what I do know. There are new digital channels that emerge all the time. There are new platforms that emerge all the time. Who would have ever thought that gaming and esports and esports athletes would be what they are?
$1 billion industry now.
Multi-billion. It's going to be bigger than the NBA very soon, right?
Yeah, I heard it's going to outgrow the NFL even. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Right. And so there are all these new platforms. There are all these new channels. And so with social specifically, look, is the ROI on Facebook marketing today what it was 5, 8, 10 years ago? No. And I think in a lot of ways what Facebook has done to marketers is pretty shitty. We can talk about that if you care. So are there some social channels that people might move away from and look for other more greenfield opportunities? Absolutely. That said, the digitization of marketing is, it might be in the third inning, guys. Like, we're just getting started. And so digital ways to reach people, to target people, ways for you and I as consumers and customers to raise our, one man's junk email is another man's prize, right? If Ford emails me about the new Mustang, I'm stoked. That's candy in my inbox, right? And so we have and my buddy Joe Pine, who's the legend, one of the biggest thinkers in business. He wrote The Experience Economy, which just came out with a new edition. I highly recommend checking out. He says, if it can be digitized, it can be customized and personalized, right? And so I think that's exciting. I think it's exciting for marketers, and I think it's exciting for us as human beings. And so I think it just behooves us as marketers to be testing these new channels and going where we think, the old Wayne Gretzky quote, skating to where the puck might be. So what are the new platforms? What are the new technologies that our prospects and customers might be using? And what are the most cost-effective and innovative ways to reach them? I think that's always an exciting conversation. And do I think platforms like Facebook are less valuable than they once were? Absolutely.
And part of that gets into like this whole idea of like blue ocean, red ocean, where if you're just now getting into Facebook advertising, you're kind of like way into the red ocean, because now the competition is 10x, 100x from what it was back in 2013, 14, even 5-6 years ago, those years. So I do think that it's important to be looking at the new channels of advertising, because that's usually where the best return on your money is. If you got into Facebook early, you were getting much better results. If you get in now, if you're testing on different platforms, like we haven't done a ton of testing on LinkedIn, but I'm seeing like LinkedIn as far as organic social goes. I mean, there's an opportunity there right now. TikTok potentially, which is another one that I know Andres has played in a little bit. I've played very loosely in. But that's another one that like there's opportunities there because it's still in the infancy. It hasn't quite matured yet. And I think most people they come so late to the party that it's too late for them. So, some people, they're getting on Facebook for the first time this year or last year or the year before, and they think that they're doing the right thing. But it's like, you know what? Facebook was 5 years ago as far as marketers go.
Yeah, but Facebook is, as I've talked about here, it's been weaponized, and at this point, I think Mark Zuckerberg is an evil alien from outer space. And since you're generally in that location, do me a favor: if you ever see the guy like just walking around like roboting down the street, just kick him in the nuts so hard that both his feet are like 2 inches off the ground. For me, and just say, "That's for Andros." Just do that, please.
And if you don't know who he is, go listen to Marketing Geeks.
Yeah. So
it is a giant bummer what's happened. What Facebook has become. It is a giant bummer.
So what do you think that
go ahead.
Like Peter Thiel and Mark Zuckerberg talked about Thiel. Thank you. When they went to go have dinner with Donald Trump the other night, what do you think they talked about?
Oh fuck, I don't know. Who's going to win the NBA championships this year? I don't know. Who's going to win the next UFC fight? I have no idea what they.
So you were going to say something about Facebook. Please finish your thought.
I just think it's a giant bummer to me what's happened with Facebook, because I think there was a point in time where Facebook was doing a lot of cool and good things, and not that it doesn't do some cool and good things, because otherwise we wouldn't still be on it. But if you think about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, Facebook as a user was fun, and as a marketer made sense. Facebook as a user today is not that much fun. I can't figure out what the fuck's in my feed and why it's there, right? And I don't think any of us can.
It's like the same 6 people now for me. So it's like every time.
Yeah, it's like, okay. And I think the real giant bummer, and it really is an FU to companies and brands and marketers. Facebook went out and said, hey, you don't even need, so they sort of insinuated this to small business. You don't even need a website. Just build your Facebook page. And now, so let me understand this. We all went out, built Facebook pages and groups, got all these people in it. These are people who raise their hand and say, hey, man, I like the Ford Mustang. Send me shit about that. That's awesome, right? We raised our hand, said, hey, market your shit to us. We want to see it. And Facebook turns around and goes, oh, yeah, you want to market to these people who said that they wanted you to market to them? That's now going to cost you money, a lot of it.
But we'll show it to 3% of those people for free, and then the 97% or more you'll have to pay every single penny to see any of them, for them to see any of your posts.
And look, I get they make money advertising. I'm not an idiot. It's just a bummer how they've gone about it. And the reality is, when the customer is not the customer, you're going to have a fucked up business. You and I are not the customer of Facebook. We're the product.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So have you seen any platforms that you're excited about that you think are going to be the next sort of thing? Like what is going around right now, the Valley, that you are like, wow, that's the thing that's going to take off?
Well, it's interesting you asked about that. Yesterday, I had a podcast conversation with David Sachs, and Sachs is co-founder of PayPal, co-founder and CEO of Yammer, and now he's the founder of a venture outfit called Craft Ventures. And one of the things he said they're looking at is niche networks and marketplaces. And so the comment that he made is, he said, hey, look at LinkedIn, and they're a broad general purpose network. Look into niches and look at how they're not serving a specific niche. That was the idea he presented to me as a way to start thinking about creating a new niche network and or marketplace.
So an entire network around a specific industry or niche.
Look at something like Fiverr, right? If you want graphic design done, you can go to Fiverr and you have all these resources, right? So there's my buddy Kevin Maney, who co-authored Play Bigger with me. His book after Play Bigger is called Unscaled. And the sort of general thesis in that book is there's an atomization going on right now, and that you can be nimble and you can outsource a tremendous amount and you can bring shit together. And how you do that is through niche networks and marketplaces. My friend Gina Bianchini, who's been on my podcast a number of times, right? She's the founder of Mighty Networks. The whole premise of the business is that people are creating niche networks, and so, for example, we had Gretchen Rubin on my podcast. She's, one of the giant self-help authors, and she's built a community on Mighty Networks for her fans. And so I think what's happened is you have these communities and these marketplaces that are focused on niches around interests and topics or industries that are fairly specialized. And so I think that's a very exciting area to look at.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I totally agree with you. It's interesting because one of the ways I leverage LinkedIn is I hijacked my the person who's like the manager of the company. I hijacked her LinkedIn profile, and I just started connecting people with the very specific titles for B2B. And then I'm starting to create content that's not like about the product, but more about the people that work at the company. So it becomes more of like, oh, look at the fun people that work there. I want to check that out. So you're getting the message out, but you're also talking to a very specific group of people. So I mean, I think that's absolutely the way to go. So if you were to be a CMO of a company, or you go in to pitch that as a job, what skill sets do you think someone needs in order to be very successful in this day and age?
Well, the first thing I'd say to you is I think the number one mistake CMOs make, and frankly CEOs make when searching for CMOs, is the job spec sort of reads like Steve Jobs. It's like
so market. So you create something that people don't know they want instead of doing looking at data like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, you're not going to get that. So I think you got to decide what you need. Ben Horowitz from Andreessen Horowitz talks about how, from a CEO perspective, are you a peacetime CEO or a wartime CEO?
Yeah.
I think that's valid at the CMO level too. I'm a wartime CMO. You don't want me around during peacetime because I'm gonna start bombing shit, right?
So you want to disrupt constantly.
I'm going to be bringing new shit to the table. I ain't going to be milking cows. That's not who I am. But by the way, there's a point in a company's life where that's exactly the wrong thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying one's better or more valuable. I'm not saying that at all. So I just think as a CMO, you got to understand, like, who are you? What's your superpower? What type of CMO are you? I have a very simple superpower that's actually very narrow. And I think if you're smart as a CMO, or frankly, any executive, you got to understand what are the 2 to 5 things that you are absolutely fucking legendary at, and do those things. And then get a team around you that mitigates your liabilities and multiplies your assets, right? And that's always what I tried to do as a CMO. It's what I try to do today as an author and a podcaster and as an advisor in some startups and other companies. And so I think you got to get super, super clear about that. I think can be very analytical, data-driven, data science type CMOs. I think there can be very product-oriented CMOs. And then I think there can be very strategic-oriented CMOs who are much more on the category and brand side. And look, I have all of those things in components for sure. Mm-hmm. But my superpower is, listen, there comes a point in every company's life where they enter a 24 to 36 months battle for who's going to design and dominate this category. I'm the guy that does that.
So it would have been useful to have you over at Blockbuster Video as a wartime CMO when Netflix first emerged, instead of the guy that was coasting or whoever was running the company at that point.
Well, you want to hear a funny story about that?
Love to.
Yeah.
So we recently had Mark Randolph on my podcast, and he's the co-founder and original CEO of Netflix. Mm-hmm. And he's got this great book, which I highly recommend.
Yeah, I just got it. I haven't read it yet, but
it's an absolute stunner. It's called That Won't Work, or maybe This Won't Work. I think it's called That Won't Work. And one of the stories that he tells in the book, and he told the story when he came on my podcast, is they got to a place, first of all, they thrashed around for a long time trying to make it work, and it didn't. There was 2 or 3 years where, and one of the things I love about Mark is he doesn't tell you the bullshit story about, oh, yes, we saw this thing from the beginning. It was up and to the right. It was champagne and roses and attractive people. And, no, it wasn't that at all. They thrashed around a bunch in the right direction. But anyway, they get to this place where they figured out the first sort of category around the DVDs and the mail and all that stuff. But in order to entice people to try the new category idea, the new paradigm, they're giving them, I forget what it was, 2 or 3 months free or whatever. And so the business starts to scale, but it's front end loaded from an expense point of view, and it's crushing them. So they're succeeding, but they're dying.
Yeah.
They end up having
cash flow issues, major cash flow issues.
Major, because the expenses are front loaded and the revenues are back loaded, right? So they end up having this big meeting with Blockbuster, and they're about 50 million in the hole at this point. And so they essentially pitch selling Netflix to Blockbuster for 50 million. And as Mark tells the story, the CEO of Blockbuster at the time laughs at them.
Yeah. I think Andros, you've actually shared something similar to this.
Yeah. I was actually working for Comcast, which is the best company in the entire world.
Oh, by far.
And
by the way, I think Comcast and United Airlines are in an ongoing battle to see who can be the shittiest customer-facing company in America.
I could, from someone who worked at that company, I can tell you there is not one company in the world who has stifled innovation more than that company. But they,
and by the way, as a side note, they are living proof, as is United, that there are some companies that are run by missionaries that have a real true north that are trying to do something exponential and legendary in the world. And there are other companies that are run by assholes with spreadsheets.
Oh, not only that, it's just a bunch of yes men all the way from the lowest level, supervisor all the way up to the top. But any good idea is crushed. Case in point. As soon as Netflix decided to go with the streaming service and they were using our internet, I sat down with the VP of the entire region, and I said, "What are you guys doing about this Netflix streaming service? I mean, do we have anything to even compensate for that?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Our competition is not Netflix. Our competition are the people who go to Blockbuster Video and are not watching cable on a Saturday night." And that's actually the moment I was like, I'm going to start my own company because these guys are fucked.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we've got to wrap up the show because I know that we have to abbreviate because you've got a plane to catch. Got a flight.
And I'm happy to come back anytime you want me, if you want me to.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. And I noticed for those of you who are not watching the screen right now, you're drinking out of a Ramones cup. So that's pretty damn awesome.
The greatest rock and roll band of all time.
Yeah, man.
Well, before we wrap up, I have to ask a question. I have to ask you a question about when you got into podcasting, you mentioned that you started from the very bottom. And like kind of nobody knew who you were because you're a CMO, but that doesn't lend itself to public credibility necessarily. So one of the things I like to talk about is this whole concept of marketing for authority building and marketing for instant, demonstrating credibility and authority as part of your marketing strategy. How did you go about demonstrating that authority as at the bottom of being in the podcast world? For us, I think a lot of it has been celebrity attachment as we bring on people like, Pat Flynn and John Lee Dumas and the guys that are well known in this community. But what has it been for you? Like, how did you go from, the corporate, maybe not very well known corporate guy on the background to now the front face? And how did you establish that credibility and authority?
So I love that you asked me this, Justin. I have a very different point of view on this. I think personal branding is bullshit.
Okay.
I think all these self-promotional assholes on the internet they're snake oil. Everybody's selling all this garbage. And here's the bottom line. I think we live at a time, Justin, where people are very confused. And what they're confused about is they think that success is attention. And listen, there's some evidence in some cases that are. If you have a really nice butt and you take 400 pictures of it a day and put it on Instagram, you can get 2 million followers.
That didn't work for me, man. That did not work for me.
I wish I had that.
And you can get people to pay you to market their butt cream because you have a nice butt. And so I get that there are these things called social media influencers. I'm very saddened by all of that because here's what I think people have gotten confused. There's a very big difference between contribution and attention. And people are fighting for attention, and they do asinine things. So what I have tried to do, and look, I'm a marketer. I understand. You got to try to rise above the I get all that stuff. But to be candid, I have a very hard time with all this self-promotional bullshit. Look at me, selfie, 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 walking around, talking to your phone. Here I am, guys. You wish you were me. Oh, now I'm going to stand in front of my fucking Lamborghini, and you can see how hot, these Ty Lopez.
Yeah, I know that guy.
All these Ty Lopez, Gary V, all these buffoons, right? It's buffoonery. And so what I've tried to do is focus on what I think are the things that matter, which is trying to make a contribution, trying to participate in a dialogue around things that matter, and trying to have fun doing it. And so the people that I respect are the people who are stepping out in this new world. For example, my buddy Mike Maples Jr. from Floodgate Capital. I've been on him for years to start a podcast, and he finally did it. It's called Starting Greatness. It just launched. And if you're an entrepreneur, I can promise you it'll be your new favorite podcast, because Mike is doing it right. Mike is a super successful, super thoughtful entrepreneur turned venture capitalist trying to have substantive, meaningful conversations about what it's like to start companies. And he's got people like Andy Radcliffe on and Mark Andreessen on, and like the list of people he's going to have on this thing is a stunner, right? That's a legendary podcast. My friends Paul Martino and Randy Comazar, two legendary entrepreneur venture capitalists. They, after Bill Campbell died, they had put together, when Bill was towards the end of his life, and Bill was, if you don't know, he was called the coach. He's the greatest CEO coach in the history of Silicon Valley. He was Steve Jobs' coach. He was the coach to the Google guys. Eric Schmidt wrote. Is he the book, The $1 Trillion Coach? Is that him? That's him.
That's him. That's funny.
Eric Schmidt wrote.
Okay.
That's Bill Campbell. So Comazar and Martino did all these recordings with Bill towards the end of his life. And they have put together a legendary podcast called No Bull about all the teachings of Bill. And they went out and they interviewed all kinds of leaders like Ben Horowitz and many others who were coached by Bill. Okay. That's a legendary podcast. And I could give you many others. And so all I've tried to do is try to engage in a dialogue around a set of topics: business, marketing, life, personal development, whether it's talking to Bill Walton about how he's created his life, or,
he's had like 20 back surgeries. It was crazy how many back surgeries he's had. And he's still running like marathons every day practically.
He's incredible. He rides his bike a ton. I highly, highly, highly recommend his book, Back from the Dead. It's an all-time great. Anyway, I feel very fortunate that trying to have a thoughtful conversation with interesting, fun, fascinating people, and in the area of marketing, trying to expose things that are not talked about, like category design, like building a data flywheel, like a whole bunch of other things that are counterintuitive to a lot of people. I'm trying to, look, it may sound corny. I'm trying to make a difference, and I'm trying to have fun doing it. And I'm trying not to make an asshole out of myself walking around with a selfie stick and saying, buy my fucking bullshit along the way. You know what I mean?
I like the concept though of leading with value-based content. You're not hiding it behind a paywall. Authentic. You're leading with authentic content, and you're actually making a contribution, and that's something that we try to do here. And also, I'm just a natural lifelong learner. So like this stuff, I don't even need to be paid to do this. I'm just here. I learn from these interviews. I love spending time with people that are, smarter than me, more experienced than me, and learning getting their 2 cents, getting questions answered that I have. And usually people benefit from listening to these conversations. So it's been a blast for me. You might want to check out this guy, Mike Winnett. Have you heard of him? He is like the Contrapreneur, and his whole podcast is exposing the dark side of especially like in the seminar world, like marketing tactics. It's pretty entertaining. I found him to be kind of a fun change of pace, and he's different. So,
well, we got to wrap it up, Chris. Please come back on the show. We would love
Anytime,
to have you and spend more time. Before we go, real quick, what are you geeky about, man? It doesn't have to be marketing related, just whatever it is, movie, TV show, book. What are you most geeky about right at this moment? hobby?
This is probably going to sound insane, but I'm geeky about chickens.
Chickens. We had a guy say he was geeky about beekeeping. So chickens is not that insane.
Yeah.
So are you raising them? You have them at your house? Are you eating? Are they getting the eggs and eating those every day? And
I had some this morning.
Okay. My mother-in-law has 2 chickens, and she eats those chicken eggs like pretty much every day.
And what I would tell you is chickens are every bit as smart, fun, funny, personality rich, and loving as a dog or a cat. They make extraordinary pets. I didn't want them in my life. My wife did. I thought they were stupid and shitty and whatever. And I absolutely adore them. And so I'm kind of a bit of a chicken nerd, and I love learning about them. And I love the fact that they are the descendants of T-Rexes. So we call them dinos or dinosaurs. Nice. And I love hanging out with our girls. And
can we expect a podcast, Chris Lochhead, on chickens in the future?
Absolutely. And if you want, when I come back, I'm happy to introduce you to a couple of them. One of them in particular is pretty cuddly with me. Her name's Beatrice, and she'll sit here in my arm for an hour while we do a podcast. So if you like, I can introduce you to Beatrice.
I'll have my cat. You have your chicken. And
nice.
We'll
Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Lochhead, everybody.
That was an amazing interview. A little short because he had to hop on a flight, but that was awesome.
Yeah, man. Cool guy. I want to go back to Cali and squeeze one of his chickens.
As of the time of at least when we recorded this, we're both in the top 10 marketing podcasts on Apple Podcasts.
What?
Yeah.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah, they're ahead of. He's way ahead of us, but we're like 7. He's like
really?
He's like 1 or 2.
That's crazy. That's great. Like, how do we do that? Because I don't know. You know why? Because we have my lovely wife, Iris, who helps us out producing this show. Ladies and gentlemen, my lovely wife, Iris.
Iris, welcome.
Hi, Justin. While you were talking to Christopher, in the Netherlands, we were having Sinterklaasavond tonight. So that's like the... before you had Sinterklaas, we brought you Sinterklaas, and now he's called Santa Claus. And we were wrapping up all kind of presents. So tomorrow night is Sinterklaasavond in our house. But looking at next week, next recording, you are going to receive Nick Norris.
Oh yeah.
Justin.
He's my college professor. Come on.
Yes, yeah, he's your college professor, and it was very difficult to find a date, but yeah, thankfully he's coming up next week. He's owner of ID Marketing and Design, a boutique agency that provides marketing services to small businesses, and he teaches business classes at college, and he has an MBA from the university in, I don't know how to pronounce.
Pepperdine. Right?
Pepperdine. Yeah. University's Graziado School of Business and Management. Anyway, he is going to talk with you guys about this and about social media, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm all into social media now. My addict of this moment is making Instagram stories. So check it out on our Instagram account, and you can see what I'm trying to do on Instagram. So looking forward to that. Have a nice week, and talk to you next week.
Thank you,
Bye.
Iris. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so we have Nick Norris next week, who is my the social media marketing instructor when I took the class over there a few years back. And he's also best friends with the Netflix guy, Kevin Lorino, we had on the show. So those two are best friends. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And if you go back and listen to that episode, that was actually a really interesting episode. We talked about, he was actually working on Santa Clarita Diet, which was just canceled.
Not because of his efforts, though. I don't.
Well,
think
maybe
so.
if he did it harder,
I think,
what are you geeky about?
Didn't you talk about what was it, the Santa Claus thing that Iris just said? Didn't we talk about that last year?
Oh.
I think we did talk about it on the show last year, even.
Yeah. Just a quick like the Sinterklaas thing, which is tonight. If you don't know what that is, this is just a brief history of it. I'll break it down. Essentially, before Santa Claus in America actually was a marketing push by Coca-Cola. And that's why he has the red Coca-Cola and the white Coca-Cola colors.
I thought he just liked Coke, man.
well, no, that's, I mean, maybe he does. That's how he's able to get all those presents delivered in one night. But over here in the Netherlands, we had Sinterklaas, and basically he's, long white beard, the whole bit. But the deal is that he has these little helpers, and they're all like black people, usually people in blackface, which has caused a lot of controversy around here.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so the deal is that if you're good, then the Pete's, who are all black, will show up with their big red lips, and they will give you presents. And Santa Claus comes from Spain, and he shows up here and then gives out the presents, and then you have to put a shoe outside of your door with a carrot and a note to what you want, and the carrot is for the horse, because Santa Claus rides a horse. And
I prefer the Coca-Cola version.
Yeah, it makes a little more, I don't know, but it's definitely less racist. But because if you're bad, what happens? The Pete's come in, put you in a sack, and take you to Spain. So the short version is that if you're a little kid, the story you grow up is like, if you're bad, black people are going to home invasion your house, put you in a stack, and kidnap you back to Spain and take you away from mommy and daddy. So,
and is Spain like in the Netherlands? Do you look at Spain as like this negative thing, or what's the deal with that?
No, I think it's just warmer. It's just warmer and less raining. So, I mean, he's got to,
it's like, we're gonna have to hitchhike back now. We're in Spain. We gotta get back.
That's right. In a sack with this. I don't know. So anyway, over the last few years, to their credit, Pete's have become less. Less
racist,
like blackface,
less racist.
Well, they're changing the narrative. So the narrative now is that they're black because they go down the chimneys, and so it's soot.
Oh, it's
like
soot,
on their face. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
right.
There's still those purists that are like, this is part of my heritage. So whatever. I mean, your heritage is racist. That's all there is to it. Anyway, geekiness. So what are you geeky about right now, man?
Well, I think I mentioned this in the last episode too, but this is the last thing I watched because I've been busy, man. But I watched Knives Out, which is Rian Johnson, the director of Last Jedi and Looper. I'm not a fan of Last Jedi because of I think it's an okay movie, but because it ruins the mythology of, Luke Skywalker and Star Wars in that regard. But Knives Out was awesome. It's like it's a murder mystery, detective style. Yeah. Daniel Craig was hilarious, and I don't even know what kind of accent he had in that movie, but it was funny. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And that's really all I've seen recently. Actually, you know what I also watched was in one evening, while I was at my brother's house on Thanksgiving night, I watched the entire Paul Rudd show on Netflix, which is like Living with Myself, which is 8 episodes. So it was like 4 hours. I sat through the entire thing from like 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. or something.
Was it good?
And it was pretty good. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like fantastic or anything, but I had some spare time, so I thought I'd sit through the whole thing. And Tom Brady made an appearance for about 20 seconds. So, that's all I got.
I am currently listening to The Wheel of Time Book 1, which is a huge, Dungeons and Dragons type.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. I'm about halfway through the first book. I'm like, whatever.
I'm listening to David Allen Getting Things Done, but like the 2002 edition of it. I got it at the library. It's so funny because there's so much talk about like emails, like a new concept, and like there's like talking about PDAs and like all this crap that doesn't exist anymore. So it's kind of interesting, but the general concepts are still relevant.
Well, enjoy that.
And he's an Ojai guy. He is an
Ojai guy.
Yeah.
He is an Ojai guy, and your cousin used to work for him,
my
right?
My cousin was the head of his seminars for way back when, like around the time of that book release.
Dude, we got to get your cousin on this show, man.
Yeah, he's teaching. He's in Alabama right now, teaching at the Air Force whatever base or academy over there, like intelligence officers over there. They have him as a full-time teacher for the next 4 years. So he left.
No kidding.
He's renting out the Ojai place. They're in Alabama for 4 years, and then he'll be back. But I mean, he can still be on remotely. So yeah.
Yeah, him and his wife. I mean, his wife is great too.
Yeah. Well, 1 second, Andros. Just a quick disclaimer. This is me from the future coming back. I just want to say that we already aired the episode with Nick Norris. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wait a minute, I already heard that interview. That's probably why you're thinking that, because that episode aired 2 episodes ago as episode number 89. So anyone that wants to hear the interview with Nick Norris, the college professor, social media marketing expert, go check out episode 89. It aired on January 10th, 2020. And you can listen to that episode. And then next week, we will be back with an all new interview, but we are catching up at the moment. So thank you for listening.
Anyway, that is it for us, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, another fine episode of the Marketing Geeks.
We're on a hot streak on our guests. We've had some pretty, I would call it pretty high prestige people here.
Yeah, man.
And Christopher Lochhead, I mean, he's really one of the top marketing podcasters out there. And he started from zero. He told you himself.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's just niching down, being authentic.
And always,
that's what we preach.
Always record in front of a Lamborghini. That's what he said, right? Or the opposite.
Yeah. No, I think
I forget. Yeah. You're dyslexic, but you tell me.
I don't know, man. I being dyslexic hasn't stopped me from, I don't know what it's hasn't stopped me.
That's good.
Maybe
good.
It has. Yeah.
No.
So, do you want to be a guest on the podcast? Do you know anybody who might be a good guest? Contact us here. You can also, LinkedIn is a really great way to stay engaged. We have a LinkedIn page. Iris is always posting interesting stuff.
And our links are in the show notes. You can find both of our LinkedIn profiles and the show profile.
Yes. And with that,
stay classy.